What if the effort you're about to abandon is the one that's doing the most work? What if everything you've called a waste, every early morning, every failed attempt, every day that ended with nothing to show for it, was actually building something inside you that hasn't appeared on the outside yet? This is the story of Ethan, a young man who ran the same road every single morning for 6 weeks, and almost quit on the day everything was about to change. Ethan was 29 years old. He lived alone in a one-bedroom apartment on a quiet residential street in a mid-size American town. The kind of town where the neighbors wave, the coffee shop knows your order, and everyone has a story they don't talk about. Ethan had one of those stories. The past year had not been kind to him. He had lost his job in the spring, not dramatically, not with a fight, just a quiet email on a Tuesday afternoon that said the position had been eliminated. His relationship of 3 years had ended 2 months after that. Not with anger, just with two people realizing they had stopped growing toward each other and started growing apart. By November, Ethan was living on savings, doing odd freelance work, and waking up every morning with that particular kind of emptiness that doesn't come from hunger, but from feeling like you've lost your sense of direction. One morning, staring at the ceiling at 5:47 a.m., he made a decision. He was going to run. Not for a race, not for a goal, just to feel like he was moving forward again. He pulled on an old pair of sneakers, walked out the front door, and started. The first morning, he made it 3 blocks before stopping. His lungs were burning. His legs felt like concrete. He bent over with his hands on his knees in the middle of the sidewalk, while a golden retriever watched him from a yard. He told himself, tomorrow will be better. But tomorrow wasn't better. Neither was the day after, or the week after. He ran every single morning at 6 a.m. Same street, same route. He tracked every run on his phone. Distance, pace, calories, time. Week 1, struggling to run a single mile. Week 2, still struggling to run a single mile. Week 3, slightly less struggle, still 1 mile, still slow. He watched the numbers on his app with the focus of a man waiting for a sign that his effort was real. The sign never came. By week 4, Ethan was running 1.5 miles, but it still felt like dying. By week 5, he sat on those apartment steps one morning, shoes already tied, and thought seriously about quitting. What is the point? 6 weeks, every single morning, and I'm still slow, I'm still tired, nothing has changed. He almost went back inside, but as Ethan sat there, a voice came from across the street. You're going to go back inside, aren't you? Ethan looked up. On the porch of the house directly across from him sat an older man he'd seen 100 times but never really spoken to, Mr. Cole. He was 68 years old, lean, weathered, with the kind of stillness that comes from having watched a lot of people give up on a lot of things. For 31 years, Mr. Cole had coached the track and cross-country teams at the local high school. He had watched hundreds of young runners cycle through the same invisible wall that Ethan was hitting right now. He lifted his coffee mug in Ethan's direction. I've been watching you run every morning for 6 weeks, he said. You've gotten better. You just can't see it yet. Ethan looked at him. With respect, sir, my app would disagree. Mr. Cole smiled. Your app measures what's outside, he said. It can't measure what's happening in. He nodded toward the empty chair on his porch. Come sit for a minute before you quit. Ethan crossed the street and sat down. Mr. Cole didn't start with advice. He asked a question instead. Have you ever seen the Grand Canyon? Ethan nodded. Once, road trip in college. Do you know what made it? The Colorado River, Ethan said. That's right, said Mr. Cole. The Colorado River, over 5 million years, 1 mile deep, 18 miles wide in places, the largest canyon in the world. He paused. Now, do you think the river looked at that rock on day 1 and saw a canyon? Ethan didn't answer. The rock didn't change on day 1, or day 1,000, or day 10,000. It looked exactly the same, hard, solid, unmoved. Mr. Cole leaned forward slightly. But the water didn't stop. It didn't check an app. It didn't ask if it was making progress. It just flowed. Every single morning, over and over, doing what rivers do. He looked at Ethan directly. And one day, without announcement, without drama, the canyon was there. Not because of one extraordinary flood, but because of 5 million years of ordinary water showing up every day. The street was quiet. A car passed. Ethan stared at the empty road in front of him. "So, what are you saying?" he asked. "I'm saying," said Mr. Cole, "that the rock doesn't tell the river when it's allowed to feel like it's working." Mr. Cole set his coffee down. "Let me tell you what's been happening inside you for the last 6 weeks," he said. "Every morning you ran that mile. Your heart was under pressure it had never felt before, so it started adapting. The left ventricle, the pumping chamber, it was quietly getting stronger, more efficient, able to move more blood with less effort. Your lungs, every time they burned and pushed through, they were building new capillaries, tiny blood vessels, creating new pathways for oxygen that didn't exist 6 weeks ago. Your legs, every step you thought was pointless, was rebuilding muscle fibers, micro tear by micro tear, stronger every time." He looked at Ethan calmly. "None of that showed up on your app. None of it was visible to you. But every single morning you showed up, your body was quietly building a canyon." Ethan was still. "The progress wasn't missing," Mr. Cole continued. "You were just looking for it in the wrong place. You were looking outside. It was happening inside." Mr. Cole reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small notepad. He was the kind of man who always had one. He drew a simple line on the page. "Here's what most people believe progress looks like," he said. "You put in effort. You see results. Linear, even, fair." He drew a second line. "Here's what progress actually looks like. You put in effort. Nothing seems to change. Then nothing. Then nothing. Then..." He pressed his pen hard at one point on the line. "Everything." Coaches call it different things. Scientists call it adaptation. I call it the 1% rule. He looked at Ethan. "Every single effort you make, every run, every rep, every early morning you could have stayed in bed, changes you by 1% that you cannot see. Invisible, internal, real. But here's the problem with invisible progress." He paused. "It's invisible, so people stop. They stop right before the canyon appears. They put down the water 3 feet from the breakthrough and walk away. And they never know how close they were." Ethan looked at the notepad, at the small, hard press of the pen on the page. "How do you know when you're close?" he asked quietly. Mr. Cole looked at him. "You don't," he said. "That's the whole point. You don't get to know. You only get to choose whether you keep flowing." Ethan went home that morning. He didn't quit. He ran the next day, and the day after. Day 43, day 44, day 45. Still slow, still hard, still no dramatic change on the app. And then, on a Tuesday morning in the first week of December at 6:07 a.m., something shifted. He was halfway through his usual route when he realized he wasn't thinking about his breathing anymore. He wasn't counting steps. He wasn't watching the block ahead and dreading the next one. He was just running. His legs moved without argument. His lungs pulled air without panic. His body, which had fought him every single morning for 47 days, had stopped fighting. He ran past his usual stopping point. He kept going. He ran 2.5 miles without stopping once. When he finally slowed down, he stood on the sidewalk in the quiet morning, chest rising and falling easily, and felt something he hadn't expected. Not pride, not triumph, just a deep, quiet certainty. I was never not making progress. I just couldn't see it. 2 weeks later, Ethan's closest friend Derek came over. Derek was the kind of friend who says what he sees. No filter, no softening. He looked at Ethan for a moment and tilted his head. "What happened to you?" "What do you mean?" Ethan asked. "You look different, not just physically. Something's different." Ethan thought about it. "I've been running," he said. Derek raised an eyebrow. "You've been running for months and look the same. Now you look like someone who figured something out."
Ethan smiled. "Yeah," he said, "I did." That evening, Ethan opened his closet and looked at the old sneakers he'd worn through those first 47 days. The ones with the worn soles. The ones he'd almost thrown away when he almost quit. He didn't put them in the closet. He placed them on the shelf above his desk, right where he could see them every morning when he woke up. Not as a trophy, as a reminder. Because someday, when he was learning something new, when he was building something hard, when the days were passing and nothing seemed to be changing, he wanted to be able to look at those shoes and remember, the canyon was being carved. I just couldn't see it yet. Right now, somewhere in your life, you are standing at a wall that hasn't moved yet. A habit you've been building, a skill you've been developing, a relationship you've been showing up for, a version of yourself you've been working toward. And it looks exactly the same as it did last week and the week before that, and you are starting to wonder if any of it is real. It is real. Every single effort you've made has carved a fraction of the canyon you cannot yet see. Your lungs are expanding. Your mind is rewiring. Your character is hardening into something that will hold weight when everything around you shakes. You are not standing still. You are the river. And rivers do not ask permission to carve through stone. They just flow, every morning, whether anyone is watching or not. 3 things you can carry from Ethan's story. 1. The progress is real, even when invisible. Every effort changes you internally before it shows externally. That gap is not failure, it's the canyon forming. 2. You don't get to know how close you are. That's not unfair. That's the test. The ones who keep flowing find the canyon. 3. Keep your old shoes. Whatever represents your hardest, most invisible effort, keep it visible. It's not behind you. It's the foundation you're standing on.